Hey y'all, and welcome to What the Friday. Before we get started, I just want to say that I had brought you the missing person story of Maya Marcano last week, and as you probably know, over the weekend, her body was found. Now, the kids and I were on a mini vacation when her body was found, and that's why I haven't updated her story before now. I truly had hoped for a different outcome, but my thoughts and everything that go out with that family. Now, the kids and I did have a really good time this past weekend. We got up early Saturday and drove to Cherokee, North Carolina. Now, the leaves are already changing and the mountains are just popping with color. It's like absolutely breathtaking. We ate lots of good food, and honestly, you might be hearing a cat meow. That's Stevie. So she's got to be like right up under me with whatever I'm doing. But anyway, we did eat a lot of good food there in the mountains. On Saturday evening, we drove over to Bryson City and picked up some hamburgers at this little drive-in called Neighbors, and it's not like next door neighbor. It's spelled Nabors. And I had these onion rings with my cheeseburger, and y'all, those were like the best onion rings that I have ever eaten. Um, Now, later that night, while we were still, just hanging out in our hotel room, and I do want to mention that we did stay at the Chestnut Tree Inn. But anyway, Alex said he was still hungry. He's always hungry. But anyway, so we ordered delivery from Domino's Pizza. And what transpired after I placed that order, it was captured on this lovely video. And you can find it on our TikTok and Twitter pages. But I've watched it over and over. And it's not that I'm so stuck on us, but it is pretty funny. All I can say about the whole thing is hashtag look, it's James. Now, if you watch the video, you'll get it. But anyway, the next morning we went for breakfast at Peter's Pancakes and Waffles, and that's in Cherokee. And oh my God, it was another delicious meal. They do not skimp on the food. I had the pecan pancakes and bacon. And you know how a lot of restaurants, they'll give you like 2 slices of bacon to go with your meal. Well, not this place. I didn't count them, but there was like 4 or 5 slices of bacon on my plate. And the stack of pancakes was like, I think 4 pancakes too. Now, so, I mean, they're very generous with their portions of food for sure. And it's very delicious. I couldn't even eat my entire plate. I even left bacon, and that's just like unusual for me. Like, I never leave bacon on my plate. But if you sit in the back dining room at that place, you have this gorgeous view of the river. Now, the name of that river escapes me. I'm sure later I'll probably think of what that river is. But anyway, so on this past Sunday, it was pouring rain. So the sightseeing was a little difficult, but we still rode through a section of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Later that day, we met Courtney and Justin and Jax over in Maggie Valley, and we went and did some gem mining. And that was fun. That's the first time I've ever did that. We went to Maggie Valley Rock Shop and gem mine, and I've just got to say that if there's a particular stone or crystal that you're looking for, the gift shop there has more than likely got it, and their prices are amazing too. Now, I got this really pretty bumblebee jasper crescent moon that I'm going to wrap with some silver wire for a necklace. But the gem mining was really fun. I paid like $22 for the medium-sized bucket. And we found, I would say, around 20 nice gemstones. And they weren't just like little pebbles either. It was like, I got this one piece of rose quartz. And it's like a good-sized chunk. I would say it's like around 2.5 inches long and 3 inches wide, and I'd say at its thickest part, it's probably about an inch thick. Now, I'm all into the gems and crystals, but anyway, check them out if you're ever in that area in Maggie Valley. After that, we rode back into Cherokee and had lunch at Newfound Lodge. They have like this buffet, and they had a lot of good food on it. My grandson Jax, he tore up the catfish fillets. I have never seen a little kid eat catfish like that, but I do have to say it was very, very good. The fried chicken was really good too, and their prices are reasonable. I want to say it was like $11.99 plus tax per plate, and it was all you can eat. So it was well worth the money. But anyway, I guess I've talked about our little vacation trip to the mountains enough, and we need to get on to the show. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about a woman named Brittany Gosney. She and her boyfriend, James Hamilton, could very well be the Ohio area's most hated couple. Mystery, Murder, and Magic proudly presents
What the Friday? And here's your host, Andrea.
Now, on February 28th of this year, Brittany Gosney and her 42-year-old boyfriend, James Hamilton, walked into the Middletown Police Department to report Brittany's 6-year-old son, James Hutchinson, missing. But from the beginning, authorities had their doubts about Brittany's story. That first day, they questioned Brittany for 3 hours, and during that time, she said that she had done nothing wrong. And then she started outlining the circumstances that led up to little James's death. Brittany was arrested and she was questioned daily for the next 3 days. And during some of the interrogations, Brittany was even connected to a polygraph machine. But little James, he wasn't missing. Like I said, he had passed away. He was dead. And I mean, that's just, the circumstances in this case are just sad and mind-blowing. But anyway, Brittany and Hamilton had driven Brittany's 3 children to a Preble County park with the objective of abandoning the 3 kids. When she attempted to drive away, James tried to get back inside, but Brittany continued to drive, dragging his little body. Well, at some point, Brittany came back for the 3 kids and put them in her van. 2 days later, they drove to the Ohio River and threw James's little body in, weighted down with a concrete block. Well, at one point in the interrogations, an investigator asked her what she thought was going to happen to her kids after she abandoned them, and she replied that she hoped they'd be okay and not getting eaten by coyotes. She also went on to blame Hamilton, saying that he told her that she had to get rid of her kids. And at some point, Hamilton told Brittany that if she didn't get rid of her kids, that he would do it. And later she blamed him for the idea of throwing the little boy into the river. Well, we can easily see where her priorities were. Now, I'm not sure how you could even think about doing something so cruel to the 3 kids you'd given birth to. She claims that she wanted to contact the local family services department about putting them up for adoption, but Hamilton, he didn't want a case opened on them. And she had also thought about dropping them off at the fire department, but Hamilton didn't want her to. And it just sounds pretty suspicious, but anyway. So instead of either putting them up for adoption or abandoning the boyfriend, the only thing she could think to do was drive her kids to a park and just drive away from them. And here's some more WTF for the case. Brittany knew she dragged that poor baby with her fan, but she still left him there. She didn't know if he was alive or dead when she drove away, so she didn't seek medical help for him. She says that dragging him with the car was an accident, and she didn't know he was dead until she returned. Get this, she said she didn't even hear James screaming because she had her music turned up. But she did hear the other 2 kids screaming as she drove away. I mean, if that's not cold-hearted or no-hearted, I don't know what is. But all of this just didn't start the day of his death. The night before James died, she knew that Hamilton was abusing her kids. She says that he tied them all up and put dirty underwear in their mouths. She says that she could hear the thumps on the floor and knew he was literally beating them, and she did nothing to stop him. I'm sorry, but he would just have to kill me, y'all. But, I mean, there's no way I could have listened to that happen without trying to stop him. But the thing is we know that some moms don't have that mama bear instinct, and it's clear that Brittany was one of those. Well, after the beating, they spent around 3 hours in a closet while hogtied. And this is where the coyotes part comes in. She told investigators that he told her that he was going to get rid of her children by taking them to Rush Run Nature Preserve and either just leave them there or tie them to something and let the coyotes eat them. So instead of letting him do that, she drove the 3 kids to the park in the middle of the night, put them out, and then drove away. And I think I've read that it was like 3 a.m. when she drove out there and dropped those kids off. Now, can you imagine the fear? It had to be pitch dark in a preserve area like that, in the middle of the woods probably. And those kids had to be just absolutely terrified. But she put them out and she drove away. But as she drove away, James was still holding on to the car handle and his body was dragged. Later, Brittany drove back to where she'd left the kids and put them, along with James's lifeless body, in her vehicle. The next day, the two, Brittany and Hamilton, drove James's body to the middle of the I-275 bridge. But just before that, Hamilton had tied a cinder block to James's chest. Brittany actually even helped Hamilton dispose of her own child's body by throwing him over the side of the bridge into the river below, and she even recalls hearing the splash of the water when his body hit the water. But Hamilton tells a totally, or not even close to the same version of this story. I was going to say totally different. I would say it's similar, but not totally. Anyway, he says that the hog tying of Brittany's kids had been all her idea, but she asked for some help doing it. Hamilton says that the 3 kids were really and truly hogtied on their stomachs with their arms and legs behind them. His version of the events has the kids in that closet for 6 hours and says that it was punishment because they had been misbehaving earlier. During the interrogation, Hamilton was asked what the worst thing was that he ever did to the kids, and he says that it was punching them. And when he asked which of the kids he punched last, he said that it was 6-year-old James. James's body has never been located, but Hamilton said that if it is ever found, that the bruises on James's body would be located on his backside, ribs, back, and legs. He goes on to say that Brittany had joined in on the abuse and that it hadn't been just him. Hamilton denied being with Brittany when she abandoned the kids in the park. Court documents have revealed that it's even possible that Brittany had ran over James as she drove away. According to Hamilton, Brittany wasn't supposed to leave the kids there. She was just supposed to drop them, like get them out of the car, act like she was going to leave, just to scare them into behaving better. I mean, who does that, you know? He also disclosed that the rope that had been used to tie the cinder block onto James's chest had also been used to hogtie one of the other children. Now, the following March, Brittany and Hamilton were both indicted with a combined 31 charges. Brittany pled guilty to murder and 2 counts of child endangering in September of this year in Butler County Common Pleas Court and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 21 years. In Hamilton, he was sentenced just this past Tuesday, and he was sentenced to serve a minimum of 8 years and a maximum of 12 years on the kidnapping charge, 3 years on the child endangering charges, and 1 year on the gross abuse of a corpse charge. and these charges are supposed to run consecutively. After he serves 15 years, he may be eligible for early release and will be required to register as a violent offender. Now, in a bit of a twist to this story, or at least I thought it was a twist, Hamilton's wife, okay, so he wasn't even divorced when he was dating Brittany, but anyway, his wife, Priscilla, was present for his sentencing, and she put most of the blame on Brittany. She said that Brittany had always been mean to the kids and went on to say that she's known Hamilton for over 17 years and he's not the monster that people are making him out to be. Okay, well, this is my opinion. Now, even if Hamilton wasn't abusive and didn't participate in any of the events that led up to the death of James, he sure didn't do anything to prevent it from happening either. That entire event was calculated, and honestly, there's no telling what hell those kids had been living through before James died. Now, if anything good could come out of this, at least James's siblings aren't living in that household anymore. But it's a shame that it had to come to that for those kids to get help. Do I think they got the sentences they deserved? No, not really. Hamilton was credited with time served, so that takes away from his sentence. And as for Brittany, she should never be allowed to be free again. She had one job, and that was to protect her kids, and she blew it. She blew it in the worst way. Unfortunately, this isn't the first case of child abuse in history, and it certainly won't be the last. That's just a sad fact in all of this. Well, until tomorrow morning with the Weekend Weird Files, have a good evening.
Look, it's James.